Everything Wrong with Belly of the Beast Part 2, or Part 3 if you count the original parody. So continuing from the last video, this time we're going to talk about the deception of pretending that sharks were stimulated by red ink dye and whether it's even ethical to be dumping a bunch of red ink dye into the ocean. We're going to talk about how they want to overhype basic observations of sharks swimming and talk about hierarchy and social behavior. Talk about the repeated use of the word attack by people who should know better than to use that word. I give a few more examples of how putting different footage from different sources together on the timeline in an order that they want you to believe it happened in is also destructively deceptive. And we talk about the abuse of the word respect, the false respect for these animals, and the ever-ending hope that there is some answer out there somewhere that's going to allow humans to finally start protecting a protected species. Check out a few details from this edit that they did in which they tried to make it look like a shark was irresistibly attracted to their synthetic blood rupture from the synthetic whale. I have a source who said that that's nothing more than red ink dye. But besides the fact that my trusted source actually worked on this show and has no reason to lie to me, why would they call it synthetic blood if it wasn't something as stupid as red ink dye? Because they already announced that they used a lot of chum and blood and hormones in the show. So why switch now to calling this synthetic blood if it consists of anything natural like chum and blood? So, that's evidence in itself that this is, in fact, most likely nothing more than coloring being added to the ocean. So now we're supposed to believe that the sharks are going to react to this cloud of color, which is ridiculous. People that are big fans of white sharks learned a long time ago that their eyes are one of the last things that they use in the process of zeroing in on prey. But they might also be hoping that you weren't able to catch on to the subtle detail that it's not real blood. So maybe they're hoping that the audience is thinking, oh, wow, the sharks are smelling all this extra blood. And the scientists contribute to this. They actually say that the shark is getting charged up, which is ridiculous. The shark's getting charged up by some unnatural crap that isn't even blood.
Sharks are clearly fired up by the explosion of blood.
Yeah, they didn't even show a shark that was charged up. So they're blatantly lying in order to entertain the audience and get you thinking that sharks behave in a way that isn't true. You don't want to hear a biologist lie about a shark's behavior. But the other scary thing is that some of these quote-unquote shark experts that they put on there really don't know what they're talking about. It's not always that they're intentionally lying. Some of them really have no business talking about sharks at all. And you got to wonder, maybe they actually do think that the shark is charged up by something that will not charge the shark up. That's speculation. I don't know how much each of these reality TV entertainment hosts, also called shark experts, actually know about sharks, but there's no good answer here either way. They either don't know what they're talking about or they know better and are choosing to mislead the audience anyway. Saying the words synthetic blood leaves a window to wiggle out. It leaves some deniability. Like I had to look into it and find out from somebody what exactly they meant by that. But, otherwise, if you don't do what I did, then you're like, well, maybe it just means a different type of blood. Or they never flat out said it was blood, and they also never flat out said it was fake blood. Announcing on television, yeah, we're going to use a red ink dye would sound as stupid as it is. But the fact that it is red ink dye, at least my money is on that it is nothing more than red ink dye, means they're polluting the ocean. They are dumping chemical pollutants into the ocean and calling it a scientific advancement, which makes it that much more intolerable to me when they cut to Austin screaming inside of the dome and making it look like the sharks are going crazy. Yes, the sharks were whipped into a frenzy from the red ink dye, which comes to an interesting point. You got to notice the cuts in the edits and the changes in the shark footage. Amongst the many ways to possibly misrepresent what is happening is to edit the footage to make it look like there was a fast result. My guess, especially by listening to some of the people on the boats, you can hear them almost be relieved that a shark showed up and start shouting, "Oh, shark, shark, hey everybody, we got a shark." Or she's back, because I've worked on a lot of white shark boats in a lot of locations around the world, and something that's consistent is that it takes a long time, more times than not. Sometimes you're lucky, but more times than not, it takes a long time for the shark to show up. And then a lot of times they leave, they lose interest quickly, and you might get that shark to come back a long time later to take another look. And that's why people sound so excited. This is a patience game. This isn't a go out and then the sharks are irresistibly drawn to what you put there. It's actually pretty challenging to keep the attention of the sharks with fake things. You know, an actual whale carcass, a real whale carcass, is a great opportunity to keep sharks around for a while. Fake whale carcass, not so much, even if you are chumming the heck out of the water. So bearing in mind what I just said about how hard it is to get the shark to stick around, it makes it that much more ridiculous that they're claiming this red ink dye stimulated these sharks. And I'm saying all of this to make another point. You don't know when that shark got there. You know, maybe that shark was there and then they deployed the blood to make it look like the shark was interested in the blood. You just don't know. And then they're cutting back and forth from clean water to bloody water to back to clean water. And this is all sequential in the show. So they're showing you sharks that are stimulated, supposedly, and you don't even know if that was shot there, much less know if it was shot in the order that they're presenting it to you to match the storyline of their script. And again, this may not have even been footage from this location. So as long as we have two sharks on the screen, let's switch to talking about the hierarchy. And anytime that there was more than one shark around, they wanted to pretend that they were witnessing important social behavior. And it was pretty much as simple as not wanting to run into each other while making circles. And there's some hierarchy mixed into there. You know, the one that needs to get out of the way is almost always going to be the smaller one. That's not an incredible observation. It's certainly not something that anyone who's ever watched white sharks hasn't seen. We always see hierarchy from the cage diving boats. It's common. It's not usually violent. It's just letting the other shark see that the other shark is there or what the size of the shark is. Whoop-de-doo. Name some species that don't do that. Size up the situation. I mean, even humans, you walk into a room and you're like, yeah, that guy might be able to beat me up. That guy, not so much.
That was insane. The white shark attacked Earl, came right in on the pec fin, took a huge bite. I saw down the entire mouth of that animal.
In the original parody video that I did, I pointed out that the narrator said that the shark attacked Austin. And I was like, oh, so the whale just got in the way of the shark's evil plan. And now he's saying the shark attacked Earl, the whale. If you've worked in the shark advocacy realm, you know that using the word attack is frowned upon. And scientists usually are like, yeah, you know, don't overuse the word attack. Not everything's an attack. For those of you saying, oh, that's not a big deal. Well, imagine the hypocrisy that someone like me will get nailed, or I was criticized when I was new with sharks for using the word attack because it was a bad habit. You know, most people use the word attack when they shouldn't. It's just interesting that amateurs are held to a higher standard or criticized more thoroughly than the supposed experts who are supposed to be leading by example on television. Responsible scientists, real shark advocates, would be saying that the shark investigated Earl, interacted with Earl. You know, this wasn't some violent, crazy thing. The shark very slowly mouthed that pectoral fin, and then, realizing it had finally found a piece of that fake whale that it could get in its mouth, investigated further, by trying to remove it the way it would remove whale flesh. And there's got to be some frustration in here, spending all this time on something resembling a whale carcass and having no reward. You would think that hardcore shark advocates watching this would be upset about the possibility of the shark ingesting whatever that thing's made out of.
Just have so much respect for these animals.
You don't. You exploit the shit out of these animals for stupid TV shows.
I can barely talk right now. My heart was in my chest.
Well, that's due to your lack of real-world experience with these animals and the fact that you have no business being there. And nothing really says respect quite like wasting the time of an animal that was probably off doing something important before you tricked it into coming over here. For advanced science, what exactly was the advanced science? Those of you who love Shark Week and don't like what I'm saying, do me a favor and go back to all the shows that you watch and count how many of them end with this fake salvation that tags are what's going to save the sharks. Go back to when they started with this BS and tell me how sharks are doing today.
What a huge win for conservation. What a huge win for the species.
Think about all the lies, all the deception that I've pointed out in this series that I'm working on. Please go and watch them if you haven't, because the list of deception is really long. And then all those sins conveniently are supposedly wiped away by those watching this who say, yeah, but it was worth it because, look what they did for the species. Define specifically what they did for the species. They attached an object to it. That's not a win. It's an action that they tell you could possibly, maybe someday lead to some data that might open a window to insights furthering our understanding of movements that we can study for another 10 years to possibly affect policy change. When is that line going to change? And if you didn't hear it already, they didn't get shit from this tag deployment. Not that whatever data they might have been able to get would have made a difference. I'm sorry. What year are you going to finally wake up to the fact that the tagging is not saving sharks? When I say you, I mean you, the audience, not the scientists. These guys are going to continue with it anyway, because at this point, it's their career. Maybe some scientists are going to do some good work, but they're still up against policymakers, and that's called corruption. That's the human race being fueled by money and greed. Scientists can't beat that. But presenting this to you at home as though they are stopping it, that sharks are being saved, that we are winning the war of conservation because another tag was deployed, helps keep the people at home asleep to the fact that we are losing this battle because we as a species won't change. There's no mysterious illness in the ocean or some leviathan that is coming around and wiping out the white sharks. South Africa is a fantastic example of why you can't keep hoping that policy change is the answer, because policy was put into place in 1991 listing these as a protected species, and the same government has spent government resources continuing to kill great white sharks in the name of tourism in the Durban area, and is killing white sharks in the name of the fishing industry on the Cape Coast. And this place was already under incredible pressure from fishing fleets and from poaching. And they've only increased the pressure. But you want to think that going out and getting more tags to learn where they're going? Oh, why? Because you're going to set up international water protections to stop international fishing fleets from killing white sharks when they leave South Africa? You're not protecting white sharks on the coast of South Africa. But yeah, suddenly we're going to have resources to go and patrol international waters and actually enforce. I can't even continue with this ridiculous idea. Oh, but you know what? Blame the orcas. Shit, we did find the answer. Isn't that convenient? All this time, it was orcas. So I'll save that for the next episode. We'll get a little bit deeper into the orca blame and how they incorporate the orca blame into the actual theme of the shows that they're doing, and also the idea that they're hunting for the missing white sharks, which was also a deception in the show. They misled you about which sharks, specifically size-wise, are missing. All so they could have the excuse to go after giants, which all these shows do. You got to find the biggest sharks. Anyway, that'll be in the next episode.